Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. The topic for our forum today is contributions of the Abbasid era. I'm Fifi Nuanza Atira as the moderator for today's forum, and I do have 4 panels with me to discuss about the topic for the forum today. So at my left side we have Alisa, Ardini, and Arina, and from my right side I have Alisa and Zafri. So before we start our forum today, I would like to briefly explain the history of Abbasid era. So Abbasid era began at the 2nd century of Hijrah and ended in the middle of 4th century, which founded by the Caliph Abu Abbas, which also known as As-Safa. During that time, the Caliph at that time actively support Islamic scholarship and discussion and debates on various issues. At that time, there are many independent mujtahids and they established their own mazhab. At these periods, they witnessed the beginnings of fiqh, where they divided the fiqh into 2 sections, which is first the fundamental principle, which also known as usul, and the secondary principle of scientific, philosophical, and theological works, which also known as furu. During these periods, the various principles of fiqh were developed, and the view of the scholar, particularly the opinions of the 4 mazhab, were compiled and codified. And the Sunnah was also codified at this period to actually assist the scholar to differentiate between the authentic and unauthentic narrations. Okay, so fiqh in these periods, as stated earlier, had developed rapidly, and many ijtihad were deduced by the scholar for the consumptions of the Muslim Ummah. There are several factors which contributed to this development. One of the factors is the government supports toward the developments of fiqh and fuqaha. During that time, the Abbasid Caliph were very supported, and they encouraged the scholar, and they assist them in developing the science of Islam, including fiqh. During that time, they also respect for Islamic law, and they consulted the scholar in making several decisions. For example, Caliph Al-Mansur consulted Imam Malik about to allow him to make the compilations of Imam Malik, which also known as Al-Muwatta, to be the state. Caliph Al-Mansur do consult with Imam Malik to allow him to use the Al-Muwatta as the state constitution. But Imam Malik refused to this suggestion, as he aware the limitations of the compilation of the Sunnah, and then the other example I can give is Caliph Al-Ma'mun, where he was reported to actively support the scholar by attending their circle and embarking on serious discussion and debates with the scholar. He would sometimes agree and sometimes disagree with the decision given. However, during this period, even though they do have their own freedoms of opinion, but they often subjected to the severe punishment, as we can see. For example, Imam Malik was jailed, beaten, and tortured during that time just because he challenged the policy stated by the Abbasid Caliph, where the policy stated that the people need to swear. If they broken the oath stated by the Abbasid Caliph, they were automatically divorced with their wife. So Imam Malik do not agree with that policy, thus he was sanctioned. So the The other factors going to be explained by my other panel. Okay, so Alisa, can you share with us another factors that lead to the contributions of this era?
Okay, thank you, Fifi. Good morning to all the panels for today, and thank you for inviting me. Okay, so I think the next factors and contributions that lead in this era, that we can see in this era, which is I want to share about the emergence of the competence mujtahidun and also the spreads of the debate and discussion. So basically, what I want to share with you is about in this era, we can see that there are four majors of scholar which has been developed or emerged, which is Imam Maliki, Imam Hanafi, Imam Abu Hanifa, and also Imam Shafi'i, which is all the four major scholar has contributed a lot in this era, and they have their own mazhab and also their own reasoning that we can refer. For Malaysia, we can see that we use mazhab Shafi'i as a reference for all the Muslim people, because we know that mazhab, in every mazhab, it has its own reasoning and also its own view regarding any matter. But however, even though there are many mazhab and also many scholars, but we need to know that the main authority that we need to refer, which is Al-Quran and Sunnah. So even though there are many references that we can see, but everything must be based on what has been stated in the Quran and Sunnah. Anything that is contradict, we cannot use that thing, that ruling. Okay, so I want to share, in this era, we can see that the mujtahidun or the scholar use the methods of discussion and also the academic debate in order to solve any issue that has been arise during that era. Because we know that from time to time, there are many issues that happen among the peoples, and we need to know how to solve the problem, which has been not stated in the Quran or Sunnah. So how we need to solve that problem, we must refer to the mujtahidun who has the ability in order to make their own personal reasoning among them and rise to one mutual decision that can be used by all the citizens. Because we know that when there is a lot of reasoning and we cannot come to one conclusion, you become confused and we do not know which one is the correct.
Yeah.
So we need to come to the one conclusion. So this is the method that is used.
Okay, so Arina, can you share with us another factors of the contributions of Abbasid era?
Okay, thank you, Fifi. Actually, during this era is the most flourishing out of four of the era. So during this time, there's been a lot of expansion of Islamic empire. So during this, the Abbasid Empire territories were expanded to include all of Persia, India, southern Russia, and the capital was moved to Baghdad. And at the same time, the expansion resulted in the increase of the issue of faith needed to be resolved by the scholars, because when you expand a country, another culture comes in. So the Arabs and non-Arabics are actually intermingling their culture, as well as may use their culture and religion interchangeably. So this may raise a lot of issue under the religion itself. So the scholar, what they do is actually they gather around to do a discussion in order to solve those issues, so that they can reach a mutual agreement, just like Alisa said just now, to address all the issues that arise from this diversity of problems that comes from the expansion of empire. And consequently, the scholars developed different methods of ijtihad in order to find solution to this issue, and based on the general principle provided by the Quran and Sunnah.
So Alisa, can you provide us the other factors that lead to the developments of factors and contribution that lead to the developments of Abbasid era?
Well, another contribution of the Abbasid Caliphate in the development of Islamic law would be in the compilation of two things, which are the Sunnah and the Fiqh. Now, I will be elaborating on the Sunnah first. During the Abbasid period, most of the Prophet Muhammad's Sunnah was compiled by the scholars of Hadith. In doing so, it has contributed in reducing the burden of proving the authenticity of a specific Hadith in deducing the rulings of Fiqh. Now, during this time, the compiling of all the Sunnah and Hadith